What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Fatboyz Dynasty Podcast, presented by the Fantasyholics Podcast Network, coming at you live on X, YouTube, and Facebook. As you can hear, I've got a lot of dogs barking. Got a house full of kids. The dogs want to be outside with the kids. So if it gets loud here, I'm gonna cut out and let Brant have his moment in the sun. We've got some stuff ready to go here, so hopefully the dogs will let me cooperate and get through a few more minutes of this before I have to take a proverbial leave of absence. First and foremost, covered the quarterbacks in this year's draft class last week. We're going to talk about 10 running backs today, and you and I agreed that rather than coming up with the consensus ranking or my rankings and your rankings, we were going to talk about the consensus number one and then just talk about the next 9 guys that we're excited about. I really don't think you can genuinely rank this class until we see landing spot and what the situation is going to entail. So we have some really juicy stuff for you guys coming up about these running backs, some stats, some pro strengths, weaknesses, some comps. Real quick, Brant, before we get into the running backs, though, I do want to talk about some news in the NFL world, so to speak. Rashee Rice investigation is complete. No impending suspension coming from his off the field stuff this offseason. So what are your thoughts on Rashee Rice first before we get going?
That's great for him. You saw when Patrick Mahomes and him are both healthy and on the field together, he is an elite top 12 wide receiver in fantasy. He's an elite receiver for Patrick Mahomes. He makes it easy for him. I know he came out and said that he kind of wants JSN money. He wants to be a top paid receiver. Well, that was his chance to show it. They should be able to have a full offseason together if Mahomes is healthy. I know, talks are he's throwing already. If he comes back and he's fully healthy to start the season, then those two, the sky's the limit. You could be talking about Rashee Rice being the top 5 wideout by that time.
Yeah, and again, like you said, Brant, he was definitely kind of Patrick's, guy. Travis Kelce isn't getting any younger. Obviously, big upgrade at the running back position there, which honestly should make throwing the ball a little bit more easy and effective when it does happen. Like you said, Rashee Rice should slot right back in as the number 1 in that offense, and it wouldn't be shocking at all to see him be a top 10 even wide receiver on the season.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's rip this off with a Band-Aid. Let's get everybody's number 1 out of the picture right off the bat. We'll start with Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame running back, 20 years old, 6 foot, 214 pounds, Brant.
Yeah, he's a great running back. He's got the home run speed. He's got great balance, through the arm tackles. You're not going to bring him down. You've got to square up to actually take him down. And he is a very good weapon in the passing game. And he secures the ball and doesn't fumble. I think it was 1 fumble over a career, 433 carries and 63 receptions. He doesn't give the ball up. His weakness, just like a lot of this class, he needs work in the pass game. You're going to hear me probably say that. I think 7 out of the 10 of these backs, that was the one thing is they need work in the pass protection. They're not the greatest at protecting their quarterback. He can miss his cutback lanes. He has a tendency to see the lane and just take off and just go and not see a cutback where it is. He does have that, and he does have a very limited route tree there in Notre Dame. It's not the greatest. It's a check down here and there, and then maybe an out, maybe a slant over the middle, and that's about it. So he will need to produce that route tree in the NFL.
Yeah, so let's just start with his stats. 433 carries in his collegiate career, 2,882 yards rushing, 6.7 yards per carry. So the average is really attractive. 36 touchdowns on the ground, 63 receptions, 594 yards receiving, 9.4 yards per catch, and another 6 touchdowns to go along with the receiving game. So definitely fair to say he's a dual threat. Probably going to get drafted in the first round. That makes him a 3-down back. Not the best pass catcher in this class. Certainly not the worst either. Definitely not wowed by any of those numbers. The comps that I'm coming up with for this class, Brant, when we get into these, and obviously we're going to start with Jeremiah Love's. I'm a lot more optimistic about this year's running back class than I once was. Not necessarily just because of the comps, but because of how many of these guys have good, running styles. The contact balance on a lot of these guys is really, really good. And again, landing spots can make a world of difference. But I do think we're going to get 3 or 4 running backs out of this class that produce for fantasy pretty early in their career. I will say this: I'm not sure if you're on the same boat or not, so I won't speak for yourself. I'll give you an opportunity to speak, and then I'll name comp. I would not be shocked if 2 years from now we look back on this class and say player X ended up being a better running back for fantasy than Jeremiah Love. I do think there's a couple players that exist in that possibility.
Yeah, I'm not sold on a lot of people saying he's a generational running back. I'm not sold on that. He's not, he's not a Bijan Robinson, a Saquon Barkley. Yes, I do think he is a first round grade running back for this class because of what he brings to the table. He brings a full rounded workload and everything else. He can do it all. But no, I don't think he's a generational talent. He's not going to be a guy that you're going to be able to run a full offense through, I don't believe. As you saw, the next person I'm going to talk about is the Knuckles, as you get alluded to there in Detroit with the Sonic and Knuckles, as it was. He had help at Notre Dame, and you saw his workload dwindle a little bit this year with that help.
Yeah, so real quick, I'll hit his comp out there. I do like the comp. If you could rewind and get this player's comp at the beginning of their career, you'd be happy for fantasy. But a lot of Melvin Gordon-esque traits with Jeremiah Love, which, again, is there better fantasy running backs out there than Melvin Gordon? Yes, there are. Was Melvin Gordon good for fantasy? Yes, he was. So, again, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of a situation here. I do think he's going to be a fine NFL pro. I'm just not sure. For me, I'm not even sure I'm as excited about him as a prospect as I was Genty last year. I could be swayed potentially again by landing spot. It does point to seeming like potentially Tennessee, so I don't know how I feel about that. But yes, Jeremiah Love, consensus number 1.
Yeah, I've got Tennessee or Washington. Those are the 2 spots I think he ends up going there in the first round. So the next guy I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to talk about his running mate there out of Notre Dame. It just seems like an easy transition for us, and that's Jadarian Price. He's a physical runner. He is the Knuckles. He is the guy that's going to plow through the line, get the extra yards. He's not going to do anything, particular fancy, but he is the guy that you can, get there on that 3rd down, 3rd and short, 4th and goal. He's going to be the guy to push through it. He's a very physical runner, and he's very patient. He waits for the blocks to set up. So he is very patient behind that. And he looks for his cutback lanes a little bit better than Love does. He actually looks for his cutback lanes. Once again, he needs work in the pass protection. Like I said, you're going to hear that a lot from me. Limited sample size, as he did share the backfield with Love. And the durability isn't concerned with his, I think it was in 2024 was the Achilles
That's
injury.
right.
Yeah, I think it was 2024. For some reason, I didn't write down the world year. I just wrote down Achilles. So durabilities could be a concern, and being able to handle a full workload is also a concern with him.
Yeah, so 5'11", 209 pounds, 22 years old. I've got Raheem Mostert / Tony Pollard. I don't think he's going to be a super effective between the tackles guy at the professional level. I think outside zone scheme needs to be kind of his bread and butter, which a lot of the NFL has gone to. So I don't think that's necessarily a disaster for Jadarian Price. I will say, out of the 10 names that we're going to talk about on this show, he is the least polished pass catcher. However, that being said, he was probably one of the most explosive return men in college football last year. That was very good in the return game for Notre Dame. So I'm not sure I totally buy in on him as a complete running back. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see him potentially start on special teams and maybe earn his role as the season or his career kind of moves and progresses. 280 carries, 1,692 yards rushing, 6 yards a carry, 21 total touchdowns, or 21 rushing touchdowns, 15 receptions, 162 yards. Did average 10.3 yards a carry or catch, easy to do when there's not a whole lot of volume. does add 3 receiving catches as well, or 3 receiving touchdowns as well to his repertoire. But again, out of all these 10 names, I will say right now, I'm probably the least excited about Jadarian Price out of all of these guys, just because he's the least polished coming out of the college.
Yeah, absolutely. The all of a sudden mock drafts having him go at the last pick in the first round is absolutely making me sick, because, well, you know who has the last pick, and the plus side is Seattle's history. We're trading out of that pick anyway. So,
okay. Do you mind if I steer the ship and take us to the next guy?
Go ahead.
Let's talk about Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska, 22 years of age, 5'11", 200 pounds.
Yeah, absolutely. They everywhere I read about this guy, I haven't got to watch a whole lot of film on him, but everywhere I read, they had Swiss Army knife written next to his name. He's got, he sets up his block, or he lets the block set up well. He's got great balance. Great vision, allows the blocks to set up. He's a weapon in the passing game. You'll go over that a little bit more. He had 45 receptions just in 2025. He's got a great burst through the hole. He needs to, once again, work on the pass protection. He won't push the piles as much, moving it and falling forward. He's not really a home run threat either. He will get chased down from behind. I do believe, I don't have his 40 time. I believe it was a little slower than what people were expecting as it was expecting leading up to the combine.
Yeah. So again, the consensus with this class as a whole, which is kind of concerning, is it's a little bit of an older group. Again, the COVID years and things of that nature for these guys. And there is a guy I'm going to talk about here that I am excited about in this class. It's the very, very old running back, all things considered. But in college, Emmett ran the ball 458 times, 2,460 yards rushing, 5.4 yards a carry, 15 touchdowns. So not the greatest touchdown rate when you've got 458 carries. But also at Nebraska. So take that for what it's worth. 92 receptions, 702 yards receiving, 7.6 yards a catch, an additional 5 touchdowns in the receiving game. So fairly polished as a pass catcher, which is something you like to see there. Again, I can't say that I could find a better comp if I was trying. Aaron Jones is the name that jumps off the table at me when I think of Emmett Johnson. Again, not necessarily going to be that guy that moves your pile 3 or 4 yards like you talked about. Not going to be that guy that has a lot of 90-yard touchdown runs, but certainly the guy who could have 5 receptions in a game to go along with 50 yards rushing and a touchdown, either receiving or rushing. It makes you just happy as can be as a fantasy owner. So again, like you said, Brant, not necessarily a huge wow factor with Emmett, but he does everything well. Yeah. And that's enough that I think he will translate. Again, landing spot dependent with everything from 2 down to 10 in this list. But that being said, I think he's got a chance to really contribute in fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely. The next guy I'm going to go to is a guy that I talked about a little while ago when we first talked about rookie running backs, and that's Jonah Coleman. They're out of Washington, 5'8". 220 pounds is what I have written down. I don't think those are the actual combine stats there. He gets extra yards after the cutback. He is a guy that will look for the cutback, ball security, and he's got natural hands out of the backfield. He had 34 career rushing touchdowns, so he's got a nose for the end zone. Once again, top end speed. He will get chased down. He's not going to blow it away with a 90-yard rushing. Working the pass protection, and his route tree needs polished. That's another thing with him. It wasn't a whole route tree for him there in Washington.
Yeah, like you alluded to, Brant, the 34 rushing touchdowns, great number. 552 carries, 3,054 yards, 5.5 yards a carry to go along with those 34 touchdowns. Again, pretty decent numbers from the receiving standpoint. 87 receptions, 838 yards receiving, 9.6 yards per catch, and another 3 touchdowns. So again, well versed in both sides, not necessarily going to knock your socks off with anything he does. But again, love the comp that I'm going to give you here, Brant. And I think if you watch Jonah Coleman and you close your ears and just picture him in a number 32 jersey, Maurice Jones-Drew is who comes off the page. Really, really like bowling ball-esque. contact balance. Like, you're going to have to wrap this guy up to tackle him. You're not going to shoulder tackle him. He's not going down like that. Again, Maurice Jones-Drew is the ceiling for and I am telling you guys pro comp ceilings, in my opinion. If he goes to the right spot and gets an opportunity, Maurice Jones-Drew feels like a really comfortable for Jonah Coleman.
I like that one.
All right, let's go to Le'Veon Moss out of Texas A&M, 23 years of age, 5'11", 210 pounds, Brant.
Yeah, one cut. He's a one cut back. He's going to see the hole, and he's going to plant his foot, and he's going to go right through that hole and burst right to it. He's got, once again, great contact balance through arm contact or through arm tackles. He's got great balance. He picks up the blitzers well, but he also gets pushed back while picking up those blitzers into the quarterback's lap. He will pick them up, but he's not going to hold them for very long. And injuries. He tore his ACL and MCL in 2024, and he had an ankle injury in 25. Receiving work was almost none from what I read.
Mm-hmm.
And was he even targeted at all?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But yeah, the receiving work wasn't there, so there's not a whole lot for him.
Yeah, slightly more stats receiving than Jadarian Price, but way down there. 321 carries, 1767 rushing yards, 5.5 yards a carry, 22 touchdowns, only 24 receptions. So again, like you alluded to, Brant, not a ton of volume there when it comes to scouting. 0 receiving touchdowns, 236 yards though, 9.8 yards a reception. So again, a lot to be desired there, right? For me, this guy feels like the type of guy who's going to come into the league and have to be a 50-50 split with somebody who's a lot better in pass pro and a lot better at just catching the ball out of the backfield than he is. David Montgomery is who I feel. We literally talked about Sonic and Knuckles and things that you do well and don't do well, and having somebody else to kind of come in and help pick up the slack. He feels a lot like a Knuckles type of guy, somebody who can really come in, bruise things up for a little while, and then you give it to your speedster again. I could see him being a really, really good fit down in Miami with what new head coach Nick Hafley has said that he wants to do down there. That could potentially be a deal where he's like the Yang to Devon A. Chain's Yang, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. That would be a good fit for him.
All right, Brant, where are we heading next?
Okay, let's go with Mike Washington out of Arkansas. He's got rare size and speed. I've got him listed as 223 pounds at 6'1", 4.33 40 for this guy. That's a big guy running that fast. He's a one-cut runner. He's going to make that one cut, hit the hole hard, and he's going to hit you. He is a very physical finisher. He will push the piles and get those extra yards. He does have very reliable hands. They're probably not the greatest that you would want coming out, but they are reliable. One of his weaknesses was ball security. I noticed a few fumbles in there. Pass protection, again, is below standard. Route trees, he really didn't get targeted besides check down routes, so we're not even sure what his route tree really could be in the NFL. This is a guy that when I read everything and I watched a little bit of him, he kind of gave me Derrick Henry type vibes. Not that good where he's just going to, run for 200 yards in a game, but this guy is just a big bowling ball of a guy that's going to run through you and be a power back.
Yeah, and he did just that in college. 587 yards or 587 carries, 2,914 yards, 5 yards a carry, 26 touchdowns. However, decent body of work receiving, 73 receptions, 470 total yards receiving, 6.4 on his average, 3 touchdowns. So this is very much like a 3rd and 1. We're going to ask you to go get 2 yards out of the backfield as on a catch. We're not sending on wheel routes, kind of a deal. There's a skill set that matches up well with him and his comp, a little bit of a size difference. So bear with me on this one a little bit. But Devonta Freeman, Brant, is kind of where I go here. Devonta Freeman was a 5'8", 206-pound back. So again, size difference. Devonta Freeman was never going to do anything super sexy. He made a lot of really, really good plays, played smart football. But again, when you talk about Mike Washington Jr. and what he does and doesn't do well, he's another very well-rounded running back that I think if you put him into the right spot, could potentially be a 3-down running back. Probably wouldn't be for a lot of his career because the numbers aren't super sexy when he's catching the ball. But as far as this guy can go in, run the tackles, make some people miss, and potentially pick up some big first downs for a team.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, let's go to the old man in this class that I really kind of like a lot. That's Robert Henry Jr. out of the University of Texas, San Antonio. 24 years of age, Brant, 5'9", 205 pounds. What do you got on Robert?
He's got quick burst. He's going to hit the hole, and he's going to hit it fast. He's going to get there before the linebackers can even make their proper read. He's got great change of directions, 99 missed tackles forced in his career there over 3 seasons. He's got reliable hands. One of the biggest things, pass protection, because he is a little bit undersized as you hit there. He's had 6 fumbles over 3 seasons, so some coordinators will look at that and be a little scary for his ball security. So that will definitely need some work.
Yeah, so for Robert, 408 carries, 2,339 yards rushing, 5.7 yards a carry, 27 touchdowns, 58 receptions, 428 yards receiving, 7.4 a catch, and 3 touchdowns there. Again, a little bit more unknown in the fact that he's coming out of Texas San Antonio. It's not necessarily a Power 5 school. It's not necessarily somebody that was playing on a big stage oftentimes. Reminds me a lot of Tyler Algier coming out of BYU, ended up being a 6th-round draft pick by my Atlanta Falcons, and came in year 1, was amazing in Atlanta. Obviously, Bijan comes to town next year. He loses his job, still has a role, but gets himself a decent little contract this year. We'll see what Tyler can do. But that kind of feels like what we might see out of Robert Henry. He's going to be a later round pick, not somebody that a team's going to rush to spend a huge amount of draft capital on. Again, he is 24 years of age. But I would not be shocked to see him come out and have huge numbers year 1, because he is going to be a little bit more mature than some of these guys, and just have maybe a little bit more wherewithal when it comes to, running the ball and things of that nature. So I do expect Robert Henry Jr. to have a decent role in the NFL. We'll see where he goes.
One thing that popped out to me was he did show up against quality opponents, including a 177-yard opener versus Texas A&M. So he did show up in the big games for him.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go into the 2 running backs straight out of Penn State. We'll start with Nicholas Singleton. Top end speed is a good thing for him. Hang on. Sorry, I had to move my notes over to the other side. The light was going bad on me.
Good.
He falls forward through contact. He's going to get you that extra yard or 2. He is one of the only ones that you can say that is actually pretty good in pass protection. He's going to be hard to chase down, as I hit with the top end speed. His weakness, he won't make people miss. He's a straight line runner. He's going to hit the hole. He's going to go, and he's going to try to go through you and not around you. And one of the biggest things that we hate to see with running backs, nagging injuries. I believe that he just got banged up there at the Senior Bowl as well. So he's had nagging injuries for almost his whole career there at Penn State.
This is my favorite running back in the class, Brant. This is the guy that I think if the dominoes fall in the right direction, he may end up being the belle of the ball for this running back class. Like you said, gonna have to stay healthy. He has had some injury concerns. 6 foot, 224 pounds, 22 years of age, so he's still not super old. Decent amount of usage in college, 632 carries, 3,461 yards rushing, 5.6 yards a carry, 45 touchdowns, Brant. This guy is the epitome of finding the end zone. Also 102 receptions, 987 yards receiving, 9.7 yards a carry, 9 touchdowns. This guy, if he's on the field, he does it all. There's not a thing he doesn't do well. I think genuinely Nicholas Singleton is a guy that if I need a running back in this class and people are like, I've got pick 5, 6, 7, somewhere in that neighborhood, this is 100% the guy I'm looking at, because I think people are going to be jumping up for the 3 wide receivers. I think people are going to obviously take Jeremiah Love very early. And then Kenyon Sadiq, I think, will go early in rookie startup draft or rookie dynasty drafts. I'm looking at Nicholas Singleton as a guy you may be able to get in the back half of the first round of your home leagues that may be a huge difference maker year one. This is my favorite running back from the class. Only naturally, he's going to have my favorite comp of this class. Jonathan Taylor is who I have for Nicholas Singleton. Now, granted, Jonathan Taylor's a really, really nice ceiling. Got to stay healthy. If he stays healthy, I think that's attainable for him. If he doesn't stay healthy, obviously that's going to be a deal. But I think Nick Singleton are an awful lot of Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a guy that I absolutely love. Like you said, if he just stays healthy, this is a guy that could definitely be a number one guy in this draft. I'm going to go straight into his running mate there, and is it Katron Allen out of Penn State as well? He is the patient back that they had. He will wait for the blocks to develop and then hit the hole. And he also will push the pile and gain the extra yards, always falling forward after contact. Strong lower body. He's going to keep his legs turning. You're going to have to get him on the ground because you're not just going to get that forward progress because he's going to keep moving forward. He's got great vision to navigate through the traffic of the line. Great ball security. One of the things I noticed is he likes to carry it high and tight, which is great. One of his weaknesses, work in the receiving game. As you just alluded to with Singleton, he had a lot of the receptions. Lacks a route tree. And he lacks that breakaway speed. He's going to get chased down. And he relies on his power over his elusiveness as well.
Yeah, definitely the epitome of power. 769 carries. This guy's been through it. 4,180 yards, rushing 5.4 is his average. 39 career rushing touchdowns, 70 receptions, 490 yards receiving, 7 yards per catch, and another 4 touchdowns. So again, predominantly doing his work, running the ball. I've got Damian Harris as his comp, which I don't hate. Damian Harris had some really good games, but this was kind of during those years of New England, Bill Belichick, that it was like whoever we think as the start at running back, play the opposite because Bill's not letting that guy get any touches this week just to mess with us. Damian Harris, Sony Michel, if you remember those Meek years there where it was every year you expected one of those two guys to break out, and they both just kind of coexisted. But Damian Harris feels like a really good comp for Katron Allen. It feels like a consummate professional, never going to be the guy per se, but can definitely have some meaningful games in the NFL.
Yeah.
All right. So last but not least, we'll go with Jamari Taylor out of Virginia. He is also 24 years of age with Robert Henry. So the two older guys on our list, Brant, 5'9", 204 pounds.
Yeah, he's got great contact balance. He's going to go through those arm tackles. He's going to keep on going. He's got great vision between the tackles. You alluded to one of the other ones as they'd be a better zone scheme. This guy is going to be your between the tackles guy. He's got great receiving skills out of the backfield as well, and he's durable. We saw that in a lot of games where he was able to see 18 to 20 carries. He's a very durable back. We saw with him being 24, and a lot of his games he was seeing bell cow work. His weakness, pass protection, and polish his route running, and his long speed could get a lot of trouble here because he will get ran down. He's not going to break off a lot of 20, 30-yard gains. He will get you the 5 to 6 yards per carry. I'm not sure what his career average is. You'll go over that. But yeah, he's going to be the guy that's going to get you those few yards, help you stay in front of the chains. He's not going to be the guy that's going to burst out and break out the 80, 90-yard run.
Okay. All right. So in his collegiate career, 576 carries, 2,944 yards rushing, only 5.1 yards per carry. So the average isn't great. He did have 37 rushing touchdowns, 97 receptions, 868 yards receiving, 8.9 yards per catch, and 10 touchdowns through the air, which is the most on our list here. So he did have a total of 47 total collegiate career touchdowns. I'm saying his comp because what it means for football. I'm not saying these two have anything in common outside of football. Don't come at me. Ray Rice is who I have for a comp here for Jamari Taylor. I do think there's a lot of similarities in the way they run the ball, hard-nosed, could start up the middle and kind of disappear at their size and bounce it out. Another very bowling ball-esque type player here. And Ray Rice could do some things with the ball out of the backfield. as far as route or catching balls that are thrown his way as well. So I do think Jamari Taylor is another dark horse in this class that I wouldn't be potentially willing to, or I would potentially be willing to take some dart throws in the second and third round of my startup drafts or my rookie drafts, excuse me. I do think, again, Brant, as we have talked about all 10 of these guys at this point, that landing spot's going to be very, very dependent for a lot of these guys. But I'm very excited about this running back class. I wasn't necessarily going into it. Obviously, my Falcons have very limited picks. In a lot of my leagues, I pushed the chips in this year, so I don't have a whole lot of first-round picks across my leagues. Or mini picks, period. You and I in a co-owned league pushed all our chips to the middle of the table. I think we have a third rounder in a league we won it all in last year. So my research my prep hadn't started as early this year as it had in recent years, but I'm starting to come around on this class a lot, specifically the running backs at this point.
This is a class in my mind that you are going to have to wait. Like you said, landing spot, you may have to wait till midseason to see really what their role is going to be. But I think this is a class that's going to produce a lot of running backs as the number two backs and still be fantasy relevant, as you see a lot of teams going to that shared backfield type running back system.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I know we are coming next week with our take on wide receivers, probably do somewhere between 12 and 15, maybe. If we get a frog, we'll go a little bit higher. But this is the running wide receiver is probably the deepest position at this class, as it is most classes, I guess. So that's what we'll be doing next week. Again, we are only 15 days out from this, NFL draft. So next week we'll probably do wide receivers. Not sure we'll come back the following Wednesday with tight ends or not. We may give ourselves a day to, save the voices and mentally prepare for being live with you guys on draft night. We'll just have to see how that goes. Maybe we do 10 wide receivers next week and 5 tight ends or something. We'll figure something out to try to address that tight end position. But definitely going to want to try to give ourselves a rest to keep our cameras from not breaking looking at these ugly faces 2 days in a row, and as well as to not damage the vocal cords going 2 days in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. It's here. We're starting to get into the bulk of the NFL offseason here as we're about to hit the draft. I think that does it for us today. So as always, stay hungry,
stay fat, my friends.